Hi, everyone. Today, I am doing a recording of today's call. There were not enough people. I think just one of you, a lot of you had things come up and you can't make it, which totally understandable. Life happens. But I still wanted you to have a version of these tips and tools in your toolbox. So if you're watching this, you're obviously watching the recording uploaded to your modules. So we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to teach this to you just as if I were to do a group coaching call. If you've never been on one of our group coaching calls, they're interactive. We ask questions, kind of discussion. But today I'm going to lead it more so teaching style. So, of course, if you have questions, drop them below this module and I'll answer them. I'll answer them there. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we will dive right in. Okay. So just a few housekeeping settings, or let me backtrack. Today, we're talking about body image, all things summer and body image. I have been having this coming up time and time again in many of the sessions with you one-on-one, that I felt that this deserved a whole nother separate training tool for us to go through to give you more tools in your toolbox, to make your summer feel a little better. Okay. So just some housekeeping. Again, if you've ever been on one of our Zoom calls, just a reminder, you can always hide and this goes for even sessions. If you do any virtual sessions, there's the option under video to hide your Zoom settings. Sometimes if you're having a bad body image day, and you could even use this in work settings, if you have a lot of Zoom calls, hide your own face on the camera. I can see myself in the camera right now, but if you find yourself continuing to body check or pick apart, or you're getting really distracted by your appearance, just turn off your Zoom settings so you cannot see yourself, but other people can see you. As always on this call, but in general, in sessions, like bring your lunch, bring your snack. Remember, I'm a dietitian. I want you to eat. Do not let our sessions be a barrier to you nourishing yourself. And as always, everything we talk about in our group online in the space is confidential, okay? And remember to fill out your check-in forms if you have not done that. All right. So today we're going to talk about how do I show up this summer. At the time of this recording, it is the height of June, and you might be feeling really triggered. So we want to talk about, how can I show up this summer? How can I show up, at least in the remaining of this year, in my body without feeling like I have to shrink it? So we're going to, of course, normalize body image struggles. I too still have body image struggles, and I want to just kind of make us all a reality check of, like, body image work, body image healing does not mean that you're going to feel 100% amazing in your body every single day. That's not the point. We all have body image challenges, body image difficult days, but that's part of the human experience. But the difference is giving you more tools in your toolbox, helping you to really unpack some of these things so that you can have a bad moment that doesn't turn into a whole day. Or you might even still have a bad day, but it's not impacting the way that you are able to show up and take care of yourself and experience life. We'll talk about why summer in particular is difficult. And then ultimately, I want to give you some tools in your toolbox, some mindset shifts, some things that you can actively do when you're sitting in the suck. Okay. And a reminder, I speak on this topic from thin privilege. We're not going to go too far into depth today about the definition of body image and the origins of fat phobia and fearing a larger body, but I do think it's always important to call out and recognize, like, I currently live in a body size that is quote unquote acceptable and normalized in this society. And so I just want to recognize and make that known. Like, I may have not experienced the same stigma, the same really negative experiences that you have maybe watching this, but I want you to know that I have walked along so many clients that what I can do is I can speak from my educational lens, from what I've learned, from what I've been trained in, but also the lived experiences that so many of you have shared with me, and things that have worked for clients in your shoes. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so just a quick check-in. Why summer is so freaking loud. You're not imagining it, okay? Summer can very much turn up the volume of body image distress, especially when we are in this culture that is obsessed with appearance. So first there's our environment. You are seeing people, maybe even seeing yourself with more skin. There's more mirrors. You're catching the reflection in water. Maybe you're catching it in the glimpse of walking by a car. Maybe there's family photos, right? The graduation season, trips, different things. Like there's a lot more photo opportunities probably happening. So those can be really, bring it to our attention a lot more. Then, of course, there's diet culture, right? That diet culture never sleeps, I tell you what. So maybe you are hearing more diet talk. You're hearing people doing their wellness plans, their summer things, social media. Of course, you're going to see more skin probably on social media, but even just the diet culture, I put on here the pens, we're seeing so much of that. Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me recently that said, "Oh my gosh, like I am seeing ads that are saying you even if you don't qualify, here's how you can get it." And so it is noisy. And then on top of it, there's also maybe you're having just a lot more sensory experiences. So there's a lot more heat, you're sweating, you're chafing. Like summer can be a time where we are just physically, especially if you're not somebody who tolerates heat well, you don't like heat, if you live in a hot place like here in Indiana, it's just uncomfortable, or it can be really uncomfortable. So I want to I think it's really important to start and recognize like what is happening in the brain? What is happening in my brain when it comes to body image? Okay. Body image is a brain process. What you're experiencing, they're not facts, right? They're experiences and processing by the brain. So what happens is the brain will takes in messages from past experiences, from your current experiences, your culture, past emotions to essentially create your body image, right? It's influenced by a ton of different experiences and a ton of different exposures that you have had in your body. Now, negative body image, right? So that self-talk, the critic, the yucky feelings, that is often a safety strategy. It is how your brain protects you from judgment. It protects you from rejection or even feeling out of control. Because if you can experience it first, your brain is essentially putting it up like, hey, I've already experienced feeling. If somebody else says something or is thinking something, it's okay. I've already processed it up here first, if that makes sense. But the reality is that body checking, right, or avoiding that discomfort, avoiding all these things, it can often reinforce distress. Think about how in the Reboot Bootcamp, we talk a lot about how when you need to recognize your hunger, right? You need to recognize that hunger, you need to respond to that hunger. And that is one of the foundational ways that we rebuild trust with your body. So the same thing is true about kind of the negative thinking and the loop about body image. When we just ignore, when we avoid experiencing our body, we're essentially just suppressing. It's going to come out because biology will win every time. So, when we're repeatedly are checking mirrors or avoiding photos, like those things can deepen the brain's focus on our perceived flaws. The good news is though, right? Your body image, your brain is malleable. I don't care what age you are, your brain is malleable. So through curiosity, through practice, through support, doing things like this, you are here doing the work. And it is very much possible. And you can rewire these patterns, even if they've been with you for years. Okay. So I want you to be fired up and hyped and excited about that fact. I love this quote by Fiona Sutherland. She is a registered dietitian in Australia. Her work is great. I think her on Instagram, maybe she's the mindful dietitian. I don't even really know if she posts much, but she did a lot of research in the field of body image. And she says this quote: "When embodiment is painful, disconnection can feel protective." It's like, so just take a moment to recognize and like think about those days that you maybe have had, not so good body image. And again, that word embodiment is like being able to experience in our body. I should have pulled up the actual definition, but it's being here. It's being in my body. And if that is painful for a variety of different reasons by your experiences, maybe you've experienced trauma, maybe you've had people say things negatively about either your body directly or other bodies around you, which influenced how you felt in yours. When we disconnect from it, when we try not to experience what we're feeling in our body, that's a defense mechanism. That is our way of protecting ourselves. So I just want you to like have a moment, take some grace, take some compassion for how you have experienced, how you have navigated living in your body this far. It's totally normal. And thank goodness we have these coping mechanisms that maybe served us at one point in our life and are no longer serving us in this season. Or that might even be a question to ask yourself. Is the way I'm talking to my body, is my body image, how I feel about myself right now, is that serving me? Yes or no? Hopefully the answer is no. That's why you're here, right? Okay, quick little journal prompt. And some of you, we've actually talked about this in session, but always worth, revisiting is what are some of the messages about bodies in summer that you heard either growing up or either here, in this current season. I'll never forget, I went to a podcasting event, so random. And, I've gone back and forth many times about changing the name of my podcast. My podcast name is Fit Friends Happy Hour. And I'll never forget, I was like a baby podcaster. And I told some random woman the name of my podcast, and she just told me this horrific first memory that she has about her body in summer. I don't even know how we got on the topic. It must have just been the title of my podcast. But she said, she remembers putting on a bikini and like her parents saying, "You cannot wear that. You look disgusting. Take that off." And so, gosh, again, if you think about it, especially summer when we are so exposed, oftentimes skin, bodies, like it is such a vulnerable place for us to be in our bodies. That think about the young you. If you experienced something negative there, that likely maybe really stuck with you. Okay. But you're an adult now and you get to rewire that. You get to have like cereal for dinner if you want. There are a lot of maybe not so fun things about being adult, but some of these are the fact that you can change this, right? You can eat cereal for dinner, you can change the way you talk to yourself. Let's take those as wins. Okay, summer reframes. Some examples, and I'm going to let you practice some on your own. But if you think about some of those primary messages that you got, maybe some of the primary messages that you're even like inputting right now, some of them might be something like, okay, I have to shrink for summer. I have to be eating clean. I have to have confidence. I want to be confident in a bathing suit. Can we start to shift those to even just neutral? Instead of shrinking for summer, right? Maybe my more realistic goal or reframe or that I'm working towards is I'm going to show up as I am because I am enough just as I am. Instead of this term, clean eating, good food, bad food, I'm going to focus on consistent nourishment, consistently nourishing my body. Confidence. If confidence feels really far fetched, okay, I want to aim for comfort and self respect. And I'm going to come back to these in a minute. So think about some different reframes that you might have. Maybe you have some themes of everyone is looking at me. Okay, how can you reframe that? I'm going to pause so you can come up with your own answer. I shouldn't wear that. Think, how can I make it neutral? Either positive is great, or how can I just neutralize it? I have to do fill in the blank, right? Whether it's wearing something or covering up or whatever the thing is that you feel the pressure from diet culture to be doing, how can you shift it? So reframes help. We've talked a lot about that. Please excuse me, I'm talking fast. I need a drink. But I want to give you some tangible tips that actually like in the moment, okay? Gentle movement, rest, right? We've talked a lot about movement. Movement is one great way that we can start to feel. And actually, research shows that gentle movement can support a positive body image because what it does is we're building that body awareness. We're building up that embodiment of what do I actually experience in my body? So that's one. Gentle movement, rest, listening to your body in terms of what it needs in that regard. Soft clothes that fit now. Okay, comfort first clothing. Wearing what fits now, not what should fit. Okay. One of my dreams, another dietitian who in the space who I work with, she has, I can't remember what she calls it. She has some, whatever, in her office, she has this like clothing store, this like clothing store. I don't know, but people like donate clothes. And so she offers it as a place for clients to shop when they're in this kind of transitional season of like trying to figure out what their body is, because maybe a true barrier to why you're not buying clothes that actually fit is because like you don't want to spend a bunch of money. You're trying not to buy bigger clothes, but not be necessarily because of the body image piece, but because like you ain't got money to spend on all those clothes. So they have a basically like thrift store from clients that they can share. So one day manifesting that, putting that out there, we're going to have our own little clothing shop here that you can shop at for free. But can you start to create maybe a go-to outfit for tough days? What is something for you that is soft, that is breathable, that is, has low pressure waistbands? Maybe it's oversized layers that just like you feel cute in, you feel comfortable. It doesn't chafe at you. For me, it's this jumpsuit that I have. Like it's breathable. It's light. I can wear if it's hot, if it's cold, I can put on a jacket. It doesn't feel like revealing. For me, I feel really comfortable yet put together. What is that clothing outfit for you? And if you don't have that, can you maybe get one of those outfits that can be your go-to, especially in a work setting or whatever setting makes sense to you? Prepping your swimsuit or your warm weather clothes before you need them. I know that sounds, we're kind of here in the thick of summer, but let's say you have a trip coming up. Can you start to prepare those clothes now versus the night before you have to go on that trip and you kind of start to spiral? The sooner you can, maybe it's one outfit a day that you kind of start packing or trying things on to again, you're taking off some of the mental load and decisions earlier on. Now, breath work, grounding, mind body awareness tools such as a body scan or a grounding exercise. A grounding exercise could be anything just like orienting to your space. If you find yourself starting to get negative in your brain or you're starting to body bash, can you start to just, okay, the walls are white. Okay, there's a pen. Okay, I see outside, there's green grass, there's cars going by, and you're just kind of getting used to the surroundings. That can be one way, going back to the brain, to bring your brain back to neutral. 5 things you see, 4 things you feel. Those are all examples of grounding techniques. Maybe you practice, a grounding technique could be practicing that interoception, tuning into your hunger, tuning into your thirst, tuning into your breath. What are the other physical sensations that you might be experiencing in your body? And when you identify that, asking yourself, what does my body need right now? Not in the future. What does my body need right now? Can be one great way to rebuild that connection. Interrupting the inner critic. So again, talking to your body like you'd talk to a child, like you'd talk to a friend, like you'd talk to a pet, using these mantras like, hey, my worth is not tied to how I look. I am allowed to take up space. I do not have to love my body in order to respect it. One of my favorite kind of preventative tips is to tweak the media and the environment that you consume. So really being intentional about your feed on social media, following some body diverse people, and I say diverse, not just different sizes, but can you follow different abilities, follow people who have had injuries who are doing amazing things in sports. Like we need our brains need to see people in larger bodies going out and experiencing the world. People in larger bodies are not always lazy, right? Or whatever that narrative is in your head. Expose yourself to other bodies doing badass things, right? And then of course muting or unfollowing things that are triggering like fitness and wellness content. Going back to your environment though, beyond social media, this could even be something like removing. If there's a mirror in your house that you always have to walk by, remove the mirror, get rid of it. If you find yourself continually body checking, or maybe you feel you can't move the mirror, like there's a mirror in my house that is stuck to the wall, we cannot move it. We have tried just ripping our wall out. Put sticky notes on that wall with, you are more than a reflection, or something that is going to interrupt that critic to bring you back to grounding. You might even ask yourself some questions like, What is this thought trying to protect me from? What else could also be true? And leaning into gratitude. What's one thing that I'm grateful my body let me do this week? The last, tip that really can help in the moment is that connection. Going back to our brain, what do our brains need? Our brains may crave connection. So texting a friend who gets it, joining a call such as this, showing up to session when it feels hard, hugging a partner, a pet, or a blanket, right? Co-regulation can definitely make a difference. Body respect, right, can be a form of self-care. Now, I love this idea of getting anchored in your values. Oops, there we go. So, asking yourself, and this is another tool that research shows when we can get more grounded and anchored in our values, it helps us to put our brains in a more neutral space. So, what does matter more to you this summer than how your body looks? These are just some examples to get you started, but values are deeply personal and they can act for us like a compass, especially when we are navigating tough moments around body image, around food, around movement. So asking yourself, what do I want this season? What do I want this summer to be about? And choosing actions that honor your body and your life, not this disordered voice in your head. Because body respect, right? Like I always say, body respect, body neutrality is so much more realistic than body love. And you can work towards that, absolutely. But shifting, what really matters most. Okay. I told you I'd say action. So here is some action I want you to take. I want you to pick one of each of these. Okay. Think about, you can write it in your notes app, write it down, make a mental note, put it in your back pocket. But I want you to pick one grounding skill. Maybe it's the narrating, maybe it's 5 things that you're seeing, Google grounding skill if you need one, or we can talk more in session, share it below. Pick one grounding skill. Pick one outfit that feels safe. For me, it's my jumpsuit. What's that outfit for you? Pick one phrase to remind yourself. What is that phrase going to be for you? I kind of like the essence of my here and now body. I want to respect my here and now body. But what sticks out for you? And then I want you to pick one way to connect with joy. Going back to your values, maybe it is a new hobby, a new skill. Maybe it is getting out in nature. Maybe it is watching a show making time to watch a show that you've really been wanting to watch. Maybe it is music. Maybe it is reading. Like, what is something that brings you joy? And can you make time for that? Okay. One grounding skill, one outfit that feels safe, one phrase to remind yourself, and one way to connect with joy. Here's some other tools I want to talk about that if you were on our April call or April Lunch and Learn with Emma, my intern, she talked about box breathing, which I thought was pretty powerful. If you do use a watch, you're going to be in a good space with the trackers. You might turn on and use one of those breathing techniques. This orange guy is Headspace, Calm. Those are some different apps that can be helpful if you feel really disconnected and even breathing feels challenging. She also talked about just the concept of journaling and choosing a moment. For this call, we were talking about sleep and stress, but I thought this was still applicable, but I wanted to pull this in of choosing a moment from this week or last week when maybe you felt out of sync. Maybe you felt, man, it was just a tough body image day, and asking yourself, what might my body have needed in that moment? What was I feeling physically? What triggered the reaction? What would I want to offer myself next time? Again, that compassion and that curiosity is where it starts. So as we wrap up today's session, I want to leave you with, something to think about. Lexi Kite, More Than a Body. I believe she's a PhD. I can't remember where she's based out of, but she, again, has a lot of great work around body image as well. And I love this quote. She says, "You are not a before, you are not an after. You are a whole human being right now." You are. So what's one small, simple thing you can do today this week to start reconnecting with your body's true needs. Okay, it might be as simple as that grounding technique, picking out one outfit, or even just pausing right now before you get off this call, before you head into the next thing, and just notice. Okay, these small changes might not change everything overnight. They won't change everything overnight. But as you build awareness, as you practice, keyword practice, self compassion, and you take action without judgment, I promise you're going to look back next summer and go, wow, that was hard. And I'm so glad I did the work. All right, team, talk to you next time. Drop your takeaways in the comments and we'll talk soon.